Today's guest speaker is Kenneth Watson Jr., and he is the author of
12 Faces of Sober.
12 Faces of Sober. And you can find that book on Amazon. Where else would it be?
On 12facesofsober.com. So the number
Okay.
12 facesofsober.com.
All
And you
right.
can click on signed copy. Get a signed copy from yours truly.
And I will link all of that down below. I did start reading your book, but I wanted to hear the story come from you. Want to tell the audience and listeners a little bit about yourself and where you're from and where you currently live and how long you've been sober?
Okay. Well, hello, Krista. First and foremost, thank you for allowing me to come on and share my story. My name is Kenneth Watson Jr. I am the author of 12 Faces of Sober. The book has been out now since August of 2020, give or take, like July 31st, August 1st, somewhere around there. I was born in Jacksonville, Florida. Don't I, At that time I didn't really know too much about it, but I was raised in San Diego, California. My dad was in the Navy, so I pretty much lived there from '82 to 2000. My dad pretty much I witnessed my father drinking at a young age, and he went from pretty much would work a regular Monday through Friday job. Come Friday nights, he was ready to drink, so I saw that at a young age. And so I guess as a reward to me, my dad would be like, "Hey, Junior, go to the kitchen, go get me a beer." And my thing was just the actual opening up the can and hearing that
Yep.
that was instantly it. I was more excited about that than actually drinking the beer. And so I was around it. I saw it. My dad, you know, we lived kind of like, it was almost like a projects per se, because it was it was in Navy housing. It wasn't on a Navy base, but it was like a big courtyard or probably about 10 or 15 houses, and or apartment styles and stuff like that, or condos. But my dad would be up so late that they would call the shore patrol, which is the police. And so I was, kind of, traumatized at an early age when it came to the police. He never got
Mhm.
arrested, but it was more or less of a noise complaint. Hey, keep it down. But my first time of drinking, I was 12 years old. Getting drunk. I'm sorry, but my dad, he used to, like I said, he was in the Navy, and so he would always have like liquor bottles from different countries. And so a buddy of mine was over on a Friday night, and I was like, "Hey, man, my dad's got all this alcohol; he's not going to miss it. So let's get drunk, or just have a couple of drinks." And that one drink turned into about 11 or 12 shots of Christian Brothers brandy. And when I say sick, I got extremely sick. Like the carpet that was in there, like my parents never pulled that carpet up. So like from 12 to 20, they never pulled the carpet up, and that stain like stayed in that carpet because like I was drinking like Kool-Aid, and eating
Oh,
hot dogs
no.
and French fries and stuff. So it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But that I didn't stop drinking. Every now and again, if I was at a buddy of mine's house and his sister, she was older, she was in high school, so she would get us a wine cooler or a beer here and there. And so at that point, like I said, I never necessarily saw it as a problem. I get into high school, the same thing. I was an athlete, and Friday nights, after the football game, somebody had a house party. After the basketball games, the same thing. Somebody had a house party. Somehow, some way, people were able to get kegs. People were able to get
Yeah.
alcohol, and I was one of those that drank. And so every weekend I was drunk. A lot of times I would pack a bag. My mom wouldn't see me until Sunday. This is in high school at 16 years old. And so, but even though I was drinking on these weekends, it wasn't something, at least I didn't do in high school during the week. I'm sure people were doing it, but it wasn't really my thing. because like I said, I had a sports career that I was looking, was looking forward to, and so I didn't really start like picking up the heavy drinking until roughly like once I got into college. Those last couple of years, I had before I got my bachelor's degree in Minnesota. I had went to three other colleges, and I didn't really drink at all. Didn't went to the club every now and again, but not too big of a deal. But now I'm stuck in this town. It was like we're kind of forced to drink because it was like we were like an hour away from Minneapolis, and you weren't necessarily like, oh, want to go down every weekend. So that's where the drinking started to kind of pick up, getting drunk more, but not necessarily drinking day to day. And I graduated college in 2003, and I worked in radio. I was an on-air personality, did promotions in Minneapolis, got my dream job. My bachelor's degree was in communications broadcasting, so it was like, here I am, I'm doing it. First 2 years, I'm experienced to a lot of different things. I'm experienced to drugs. I'm experienced to sex, or sex, drugs, and rock and roll,
Mm-hmm.
working in radio. And but I was still that person because I had to drive, so my drives are like 45 minutes. So I didn't necessarily drink. But once I decided to pack up and go to Arizona, it's when I started to actually experience all, the issues with drinking. Because I had the hopes of, I worked, at this point it was like 4 years in radio, thinking that I would be able to just to walk into Phoenix and get a job in radio, and it wasn't the case. And so instead of that happening, I was stuck trying to just take any job that I could. So here it is, like I busted my behind trying to get this bachelor's degree, and now I can't even do anything with it. So I started taking other jobs. So the more time I spent hanging out with my brother, I was just drinking like Bud Lights, MGDs. Now they're drinking malt liquor, St. Ides, 211s, Old English, and now this is some of the stuff I was experimenting in high school, but now I'm drinking these malt liquors like on a daily basis. So it started to kind of, what birds together flock together, whatever
Mm-hmm.
that saying is, or birds of a feather flock together.
Yep.
But my brother's problem, like my brother's friends' problems, now became my problems. If I was dating, like if they're having marital issues, one of them are, now somehow it trickles down into the relationships that I may have been in. And so I'm now taking on these older emotions at 25, 26 that I shouldn't have had to necessarily been dealing with because I wasn't trying to be married, but I'm hanging out with all these married guys. And so I eventually started to get into, I ain't gonna say necessarily like trouble, but I was having alcohol related incidents.
And what
And
age was this?
this was I was um I was like I would say maybe 26. No, 20, 27, I believe.
27.
About 27. Because I got engaged, and the woman that I was with, I actually met her in high school, just bumped into her. Like I was living in San Diego, came to Phoenix, left, came back to Phoenix 13 years, and I just bumped into her one day at Walmart. And
Wow.
so we got together, and she basically, played with my emotions. I didn't have enough money for her. I was trying to get jobs but couldn't find jobs, all to impress her because of the standards of the guys that she met, that she was dealing with before me. And so I felt like I had to, keep her in my life. So I had got a settlement from a car accident and proposed to her. And she got pregnant literally, I would probably say about 3 weeks after we had got engaged. And I begged her. I was like, please, whatever you do not have an abortion. I was like,
Mhm.
I don't care. I was like, at the time I had a 2 bedroom apartment. I was like, hey, you can stay here. We can raise the child. It doesn't matter. She didn't want to have any parts. She wanted to get rid of it. But I told her if she had the abortion, our relationship's going to change. oh, we'll be okay. We can later on. Let's just focus on the marriage. And so immediately, like I was the dummy. I took her to get the abortion, and I like you when you mentioned in our conversation a little earlier
Mhm.
of having an outer body experience, and I felt like
Mhm.
when she had it, it is something like a soul was just ripped apart. A portion of my soul was ripped away, and
Wow.
I at that point I was already drinking heavily, but I
Mhm.
started to increase the volume of alcohol. Like I was drinking anywhere between 3 to 4 40 ounces a day. Like this is no joke. I think the most I may have drank in one day and I didn't get sick was like 540s.
Well, you suffered a loss. That
Yeah.
I would consider that like a loss.
hmm And
Yeah.
so I stayed engaged with her. I still have money in my pocket, so of course she wanted to go Vegas, go here, spending my money. But once that money ran out, seems like she wanted to leave too. And there was an incident where one morning, because we were at this point we were now living together, and I had an apartment in Scottsdale and I had an apartment in West Phoenix, and I kind of was going back and forth because I was still in a lease. And she like I don't know, she caught me when I was drunk, and she got me to sign a form saying that I was no longer on the lease, and I didn't really realize it. So we get in. I go to work. I was working for this organization, and I shouldn't have went to work that day. I came home drunk,
Mhm.
and just me and her just got into a. Well, I just went off on her, and I was like, you know, you aborted a child. Now you got me watching your kids while you in the club, and I just went like total demon mode. And
Mhm.
one thing led to another. I did damage to a door. I don't know if the neighbors called the police, but somehow the police got there. Police told me, "Hey, man, you need to just leave. We're not gonna, do anything. Just go." I leave, go to Circle K, go get some more to drink. Come back, all hell broke loose. I just tore up the apartment, and the police was like, "Well, we could take you to jail." And I was like, "You're right." And they're like, "Well, just go outside." So I go outside, sitting on the curb, and I'm just talking shit. And I was just like, "Yo, man, like I can't believe that I stayed with this woman for at this point it was like 9 months." And for her to sit here and say that I don't live here, I'm like, here's a checkbook that says this and this and that. My driver's license says this address, but you're believing her. I said, all my clothes is in here, and I'm a sneakerhead, so all my shoes was in there, and
Mhm.
I had to leave. And so the cop was like, "You need to be quiet." And I asked him one question. I said, "Have you ever been in love?" And then I said, "Well, love will make you do crazy things." He put them handcuffs on me. So I went to jail, spent the night in jail, I think about 17 hours. I ended up losing my job because of some other stuff. And then I was basically like, didn't have a place to stay. So I left. I went from Phoenix to Minnesota. Um, During that time, I decided to go to the military, but it didn't work out because I had high blood pressure. So I ended up waiting a little while longer, got my blood pressure down, and I joined. So I was in the army for basically 6 years. Now, I'll just give you the most condensed version of that. The army is a institution where they encourage drinking, they support drinking, they have alcohol on the base, they let you know
Really?
when they have sales. And if you go to a training exercise, if you're in the field for a couple of weeks or 30 days, one of the very first things when the soldiers get released, they head to the class 6, which is like the liquor store, and they get their alcohol. They'll depending on if they like you, they'll cover up for you if you got drinking issues. They covered up pretty well for me, but there were people that turned their backs on me. And but yeah, my army career was pretty rocky as far as you know getting in getting in trouble. I got arrested. Twice. I got detained one time for going off on a cop on base. I got arrested for being drunk on duty. I went to work on a Saturday, got drunk.
But
Somebody.
I mean, did they reprimand you, or it was kind of just like a slap on the wrist?
No, that one was they call it extra duty. It's called
Oh, okay.
a Article 15,
Okay.
and they have a company grade and a field grade. And so I got a company grade, so that stays. It doesn't go on your permanent record. But if you get a
Okay.
field grade Article 15, no matter where you go throughout your Army career, it'll be on your record. So I got arrested. I was they held me probably for like about an hour and a half to just get the alcohol off, and then somebody from my unit came. So I was on extra duty for 30, I think it was either 2 weeks or 30 days. So I would work my regular day, get off work, and then I would basically be working until midnight, and then got to wake
Wow.
up all over again at 5 o'clock in the morning, work, and then do all that stuff. But that was 7 days a week. So if I was off on a Saturday and Sunday, I would have to
Mhm.
wake up at like 7 or 8 o'clock and be doing, like you said, out there picking up trash on the side of the freeway. We
Mhm.
might have been picking up trash on the side of the army base.
Were
So that
you
was kind of
sober during this moment?
um
Like, when did
um
you have time to drink if you drank?
well, no, I not really. Or if they gave me a break, I might go buy the alcohol or something, and then
I
once
see.
I got done at midnight. Some of the guys were cool in terms at the unit. Like if I like during the week, if I was at the unit, they might let me go home at like 10 instead of like
Yeah.
keeping me there till midnight. So I still would have enough time to get me a drink or two in, but I knew that I had to get up in a couple of hours. But yeah, the drinking in the army was bad. I was a victim of domestic violence where my ex-wife was ended up getting arrested, and basically and and so she because of that that situation, they sent me to rehab because I was drunk when she attacked me, because she had cut my leg up with a mason jar that had alcohol in it.
Mhm.
And so I did 30 days. And when I came back, they pretty much was like, you need, we're going to kick you out. So I was like, all right, I'm over the army anyway. So at this point, I was getting ready to get kicked out, but all my paperwork somehow just mysteriously got lost. And I
Hmm.
promise I didn't throw it away, but a lot of my disciplinary paperwork was no longer there. And they said, we can't kick you out, but
Wow.
we'll just let you finish your contract. I said, no, you're not going to let me finish it. I'm going to get a medical discharge. So I got the medical discharge, and I got out August 2015. Now, this is just me, but the transition from getting out the army into the civilian world, I couldn't handle it. So for the next year, 20 August 2015 till November of 2016, I can just tell you I was on like the longest binge as far as drinking. It landed me, run-ins with the police. My ex-wife would call the police. Never
Mhm.
got arrested, but a lot of times she would call. There was one time she assaulted me. The police, they still wouldn't take her,
They
and
took
so
you.
no, they didn't take me either.
Oh, okay.
They're like, just go into the other room. I was
All
like,
right.
okay, but now, like, I had 2016. I ended up doing 9 days in a hospital with a pancreatitis. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but my pancreas like swelled up.
From the drinking. Yeah.
Mhm, and I almost died. I gained like 25, 30 pounds in 3 days, then lost 40 pounds in literally like 2.5 days. Like it was the most craziest thing, but I still didn't get the message. The day I got out of the hospital, I went to go drink. The next day, I went to go drink, and I drank for a couple of more months until my lease was up. And my ex-wife, we weren't together no more, and I didn't have nowhere to go, so I went to a homeless shelter on the same street. It's called the Phoenix Rescue Mission. I lived off of 35th Avenue in Baseline in Phoenix. That homeless shelter was on 35th Avenue in Lower Buckeye. When I say it was like 2 miles away from where I used to live, 2 hours away. So I
Wow.
was actually sober for 45 days, before I got sober to where I am today. And so I did that. I was in there trying to figure out life.
Hmm.
I wanted to work or per se, but I knew that I wasn't ready.
So
So I,
what kept you sober in that short amount of time?
I
Like
didn't have
in
nowhere else. I didn't have nowhere else to go.
Mhm.
And so it was like either I could be out on the streets or I can actually at least try to just have shelter. I mean, I was on medication too. I was already they had gave me all my medication for drinking and stuff like that that I was supposed to take when I got released from the hospital. So now I'm like, okay, I'll take it. So that allowed me. I mean, yes, I was able to leave the homeless shelter and
Mhm.
could have went and got alcohol, but I just was like trying to, I guess, kind of just play it out and see if it'll work. But I ended up getting kicked out of the homeless shelter. They said I stole the towel,
Oh,
which
no.
wasn't the
That
case, but
Yeah.
it was a blessing though because
Okay.
I got kicked out. I was in a hotel for a couple days and started drinking. And as I just mentioned, I was taking the medication to not drink, but this time I
It
finally
was
got
the
sick
antabuse, right? The
and I got sick from taking it.
Okay.
And I drank that night before, passed out, and then just woke up in like pretty much in my sleep and was just throwing up all on the bed.
Mhm.
So I could have died literally that night if I
Yeah.
hadn't woke up. So called my mom and said, "Hey, I'm gonna drive to Minnesota." She was like, "I don't think you're gonna be able to drive." So I went ahead, was like, "Okay." I had the money, so I bought a plane ticket,
Mhm.
and I was still on that binge for probably a couple of weeks until I was able to get into treatment in the VA.
Even
And
after the incident with the antabuse?
mhm, yeah, and then I called them, and literally November 15th was the last time I took a drink. And me and my nephew, we went out the night before, drank, smoked a little bit, and was like, my nephew was like, if you're gonna stop, you might as well go out with a bang. So we had a good night, and then had to go that morning to treatment, and I haven't
Mhm.
looked back ever since. So that was November 2016. So I did 30 days in treatment, but I didn't do 30 days in treatment. It was I was there, I participated, but I wasn't there. It wasn't like I
Yeah.
really wanted to get sober. It was like, what am I going to do when I get out of treatment? Where am I going to live? Am I going to try to find a job? So I had applied to grad school. Like I said, the VA where the VA went to was where I got my bachelor's degree in the city of St. Cloud.
Okay.
So on Tuesday, it's like, all right, I called my mom. I was like, I'm going to go to, I'm going to apply to grad school. I applied on Tuesday. Thursday, I got accepted. And so it was like, all right, let's see what happens when I get out. When I was in treatment, I paid for my car to get shipped from Arizona. I paid for my furniture to get shipped from Arizona. That was in storage. The car was at my brother's house because I took all I took everything from my ex-wife,
Mhm.
everything. And then after that, it was like, what do I do next? And the day I got out of treatment, I had keys to an apartment. And then my furniture was delivered like 2 days later. Early in the game, it was like, okay,
Everything was set up for you, and
mhm,
that kinda helped you get back
yeah,
into society a little
mhm,
easier.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they had did the recommendations of going to because they have like an aftercare through the VA, and I was like, no, I don't want it.
What, like an outpatient
hmm
program?
Yeah, I was like, I didn't want to have any parts because I knew that the only way I'm gonna make this work is that I just got to just do it. And so I started grad school like a month later. Like I said, some of my advisors were still there. So I was like, is there a South Africa trip you guys still doing? They were like, yeah. And like the government was going to pay for it. So I signed up for it. So I did a study abroad and at Nelson Mandela University
Oh,
in
wow.
Port Elizabeth, South Africa. That experience within itself truly was like defining on how my life is going to be. It was like either I continue to be sober and create situations like this, or go back to drinking and then just keep having all these, all these problems. So I came back from South Africa like a changed person.
How long did you stay there?
3 weeks.
Okay.
3 weeks. And only thing I did was I just videotaped my basically all my whole entire experience. There were other students from the university that was there, so I interviewed them. There were some nursing students, so I just interviewed them, their experience, and then I just made it into a slideshow that I actually have on YouTube, so you can check that
Oh.
out too. And so I just hit the door running. I started, kind of treating myself. I bought some DJ equipment, started DJing, community events, in St. Cloud. I did Juneteenth for 2 years in a row, retirement parties for dignitaries in the city, a lot of high end events that I wouldn't have been able to even have access to if I was still drinking. So I continued my grad school journey. I've been able to travel. I'm a sports enthusiast. I love the Chargers. So I got a chance to go to Cleveland to see a Chargers game against the Browns. I went to Brooklyn, saw the Timberwolves play the Brooklyn Nets. I've been to like baseball games in San Diego. So it's stuff that I wasn't able to do when I was drinking. Now I'm able to do it and have a good time,
Yeah.
or no, I'm sorry, stuff I was doing, going to sporting events,
But
but
you're not
now,
drunk
yeah, I'm not
experiencing
drunk. I'm not getting
this.
kicked out because I went to a Carolina Panthers game one year and we got kicked out of that game in
Yeah.
Charlotte. So yeah, so at least I didn't get kicked out of any of those events.
So none of this was triggering? Did you experience any triggers in your sobriety from doing similar things you did when you were drinking?
Yes, I sure did. I was put
Mhm.
into some situations early in sobriety where a buddy of mine that I went to college with, I was down at my mom's house for the weekend. Excuse me, and he was like, "Hey, hey, can you? We're having a little get together in my apartment complex. You want to come over?" And I was like, I knew that he drank,
Mm.
but I didn't know that it was going to be like this kind of a party. I walk into the person's apartment and it was almost like, a wine tasting or a BY your own wine or whatever. And it was just like, okay, I'm hungry, but this food is right here in front of me. And this was like the first couple of months. And so I get a plate. I go like as far as I can away from like the group of people that were drinking. And so everybody was like, "Why are you over there?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna be honest with you, but I don't drink." I'm like, "Oh," I'm like, "I don't drink anymore." And they're like, "Oh," so then it was kind of like an icebreaker of a conversation. Like they wanted to know, more about me, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't, being that it was early in sobriety, I wasn't, truly having those interactions with people, as they're drinking and I'm over here sober. So it was definitely uncomfortable. And more or less, it was, the cravings in terms of the sweaty palms, you
Yeah.
know, the mouth watering, like, oh, I want to. But I just knew at that point, you know, the little bit of progress that I had already made, that I don't want to jeopardize it. And that was kind of one of those things where it was like, especially for me early in, when I was sober before, in the military, I'd be like, okay, I'm not going to drink, and then I go to
Mhm.
one of those type of functions, and that's one of the very first things that I end up doing is I'm leaving this establishment or hanging out with that person, and the very first thing I want to do is drink. So, so yeah, but
Did you have anything else in place that was helping you through your sobriety that you would partake in every day?
um, see what truly kept me busy, especially early in sobriety, was that I guess my my initial goal when I first got out the military was to go and get my master's degree.
Mhm.
So that my master's program consumed a lot of my time because I was able to just kind of skate through towards the end of my bachelor's program at St. Cloud State. But I knew that the master's program was going to be a little bit harder. So it was like that was the motivation because I had started working on my master's in 2014, and now it's 2017, 2018, and
Mhm.
I'm now actually in it, like, and just putting my mind. And as far as other triggers was my divorce. I went in. This was April the 8th of 20 2017, and I hadn't seen my ex-wife, and I filed in Minnesota, and they told me that, like, when she got served the paperwork, she never got there was never a response from her, but I didn't know if she would actually show up to court. So prior to, I pretty much was just like 1,001 things was running through my mind. Didn't know if she was going to be there. Didn't know if her family's going to be there. If a fight was going to break out, because of just I had, like I said, I hadn't seen her in quite some time. And like I said, she didn't know what was going on in my life, and I didn't know what was going on with hers. So I would definitely say, because there wasn't closure to that situation for roughly almost 6 months into my sobriety, that I still face those problems, because every time that she would contact me, I just couldn't. I didn't have the strength to even respond to her. But it did affect me. But no, my family, everybody understood. Everybody understood and respected the fact that I was on this sober kick. So it wasn't like they did, they would still have, parties and functions where alcohol was there, but it was never like, hey, Junior, you want something to drink? Like, they just knew,
Right.
like, don't even bring it in his place.
They
You know what I'm saying?
respected you
Hmm.
and like
Finally,
honored your
you know what I'm saying?
boundaries.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would probably say those couple of times is truly. I mean, I've had the one thing they say early in sobriety, which it just it's not supposed to, but AA, or they told me in rehab. I'll just say they told me in
Mhm.
rehab that you shouldn't date the first year of
Yeah. They
sobriety.
say that. I
They
did
say
the
that,
same thing.
right? And I dated somebody, and I almost quit grad school, and it was almost like I'm allowing myself to be back in prior situations and prior relationships. And that was a trigger, a form of abuse. And a buddy of mine, he told me, he was like, don't date. He was like, just focus on you, as you mentioned, love yourself, appreciate what you're doing, and the relationship will come. And sure enough, I didn't, I had a little bit of fun, but I didn't really take another take on another relationship until maybe a couple months before I finished my master's program. So that was almost within almost being sober. It was just shy of being sober 2 years.
Okay. Plenty
So
of time.
mm, yeah. So, but
So
yeah, it I mean, the my journey is interesting, but I guess, like, even with now, like, I wrote the book,
mhm.
12 Faces of Sober. The college students that I came in contact with, they were the ones who encouraged me to write the book, because I was working in this office, the Multicultural Student Services office, and my old advisor, like, he knew me. I was a wild dude at 21, 22, 23. So he was like, "Man, you got a good story to tell these kids.
Yeah.
So tell them." And so I would just sit in the office, and he'd be like, "Man, why are you going to school at 37? You should be out here trying to raise a family, this and this and that." And I'm like, "Well, I, did that. I chose the route of this, go to college, get a degree, try to get out in the workforce. Didn't happen. Now, I picked up drinking, homeless, run-ins with the police in various cities. Luckily, I never got a DUI or anything like that, but I deserve to probably have about 50 of them under my record, if not more,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. But and so I did that, and they're like, you need to put this on paper. And I was like, and as you say, I guess I will add this too, as far as a trigger, was going back in my life, talking about some of these touchy situations. Talking, and I didn't mention it, but I dealt with a miscarriage in my early 20s, dealt with a couple women saying they were pregnant, trying to get money. So a lot of different things. But you know, the book it kind of talks about the some of the stuff that I've mentioned here. I go in a little bit more detail about my first engagement. I was engaged two different times before I got married, and then so it's a chapter for each one of those relationships. I didn't go in depth with other ones, but I just felt like it's kind of like, because the next book that I'm working on currently is not like I'm taking anything from the book, but I'm going to talk about some of the situations. And but yeah, like it's been my brainchild. A lot of people think that the 12 comes from the 12 steps,
I
but
did think that.
yes, but the 12 comes from, as we have in common, I got drunk at 12. So
Okay,
that's where the 12 came from.
I see.
So and that's pretty much what it is. But the faces is sober. The reason why I came up with the faces is that when we're drunk, we take pictures making all kind of faces. And so now those anger faces or sad faces or all those emotional faces are now happiness. They're now blissful. They're all happy because like
Wow, that's deep. I like that.
because when I was in treatment this last time, one of the only things I liked about this counselor, which was kind of cheesy, but they have like the emotions. How you feeling today?
Yeah.
And then you have to tell them why you feel that way today. So it was like, well, shoot, I'm angry. Why? Because I got to sit here and fight. I got to pay $4,000 for an attorney. For a divorce. I'm handling all this stuff in rehab. Like I was sitting here, people were shocked that I was like, I had that plan of what I wanted to do when I got out of treatment. I'm like, look, I got apartment set up the day I'm leaving. I have my car. I have an apartment. I'm going to school. I didn't have to work because I'm 100% disabled. So I had a plan. Not everybody has a plan, but it was like I saw the plan before I even took that true commitment. And then one thing I want to add, and I stress this with every time I get on to speak, is that the one thing that stood out the most as to the reason why I got sober is because my mom had a conversation with me. This is before I called to schedule to go to treatment. She said, "What can I do to help you?" And I was obviously drunk or just waking up from drinking, and I was like, "I don't know." And she was like, "I don't want to bury my son." So when she said that, that hit a little bit different because I'm the youngest of her of my four siblings, I mean five siblings. And so it was kind of like, I know that losing one kid would be enough, but for her to lose her youngest, probably be really traumatic, especially the path that I was going. Like they took a life insurance policy.
Yeah.
Like I was on a really bad path. And so the book and it talks about like the first couple of years of being sober, how I met my now soon to be wife. We met on Facebook. I was trying to change my healthy living. I was diagnosed with diabetes, high blood pressure, um, amongst the physical damages that I had when I was in the army. And so I was trying to switch up to becoming a vegan. And I was in a black vegan group, and they were like, fellas, post a picture in the suit. So I'm single.
Mhm.
I've been out here doing community work. I got plenty of suits. I posted a picture, and it was like people was hitting likes. I'm like, okay, well, this is time for me to go shoot my shot. So went through, reached out to a couple. They didn't work out. Sent her a message. She was like, hello. I was like, all right, well, what's happening? And that was the blessing.
Mhm.
She pushed me to, truly write the book. She told me the process. She's been nothing but supportive. As I mentioned, she's a therapist. And, she's helped me in the latter stages of my sobriety. I never envisioned of being with a woman that's sober because I've been so used to being with women who drink.
Right.
So these are all firsts for me in this relationship. So I just knew, like, from the first time we had a video call, like, I'm not letting this woman go. And I don't plan on it. And it'll be 3 years on Valentine's Day.
Oh, congrats. I love
Thank you.
that. Do you still have all of the support today in your life from your family?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I as I mentioned about AA, my sponsor, her name is Marie. Big shouts out to Marie. She's from Luxembourg. I have to say that
Yeah.
she's now 80, I would say 84. She just turned 84 in September.
Wow.
She in you know
Amazing.
and I'm very glad and thankful that I spoke with you, because like I know that I'm not just making this up, but like my sponsor, like she truly knows when I'm having those moments without even me having to reach out to her. Like I was struggling a couple days ago, just got a random text message and was like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm not doing too good." And then
Mhm.
she came with a couple answers. As far as, I mean, I first want to shout out, just with me doing this whole sober journey, the people that I have met and the people that I have been able to share with. Just the opportunity that I've done there, people will reach out to me on a regular and be like, "Keep doing what you're doing. You're an inspiration. Hey, I'm only 30 days in sobriety, 90 days into sobriety." So a lot of times that motivates me more than anything. My mom, I'm thankful that she's still living. I'm thankful that I could be able to call her and let her know that I am okay, that I'm not, because before I was calling her drunk, like, my ex-wife is tripping. I hate the army. I don't want to be here. I just want to leave. So, and then, like I said, my sister in Minnesota, my nephew, me and my nephew are only 6 years apart. So he's like my little brother. So he still drinks, but he's respectful enough that he doesn't drink in front of me. And if he does, we're not, in close proximity. So I do. And then, like I said, a lot of my friends, I mean, I, I, I guess I have had some good relationships where I still have friends from like elementary school and elementary, college, that it still hold me accountable to this day, just to make sure that I'm not trying to go, back to that route of drinking, because they know that life was really bad for me.
And you mentioned therapy. Do you still do that today? Does that still help you?
I yes when well no I mean I'm consistent with it. I'm
Oh,
not gonna lie to you. I love my therapist. I love it. I love her. She's really really cool. It took a while for me to find the right therapist,
mhm.
and I had an issue with a therapist when I first got sober, and I had to go to, what was it, to file a complaint, because I was like, nah, like, you're supposed to be trying to help me. Like, you're making me more and more upset, and I just don't want to go through this. So I would say that, but definitely, I see my therapist virtually anywhere between 2 or 3 times a month. So I've been pretty much, like, I've been actively back in therapy for almost a year now. I'm just shy of a year. So yeah, it
Yeah.
helps. I mean, because I'm going through a lot of changes
Mhm.
myself right now. My lady, she probably won't see this anytime soon, but we just got approved to buy a house, and so
That's
I'm dealing with,
awesome.
yeah, and,
Yeah.
and it's getting built from the ground up. So
You know
I
what? Everything is always changing every single day. But you
constantly.
know
So
what? We can face these changes
mhm,
sober, and that's pretty amazing, right?
most definitely.
Oh,
That
yeah.
that that's what I like about it, is that despite all that's coming at me, is that I have no choice but to deal with it, over like, oh man, all this stuff is coming at me. Let me go run to the liquor store real quick. Let me not even think about this right now. That was my mindset before. My ex-wife is tripping. Let me go to the liquor store.
Mhm.
We get into a fight. Let me go to the liquor store a little bit more. Me and my lady have disagreements now. Take a little cool off period. Come back and talk about it. But there's no points to where I need to go drink. But therapy definitely is key. Especially, like I said, I have you know PTSD, victim of domestic violence, um, anxiety, depression, sleep apnea. So extreme headaches. So I have a lot of different things, and I the one thing that I will stress is that a lot of people, there are ways to get the services. Now, you don't have to be necessarily concerned of the cost, because there are people that don't charge as much, and there are some free programs. I definitely highly recommend, if you are confused in your life and you need to talk to somebody, please seek the help. Even through sobriety, just to kind of navigate through navigate through your process, because it's
Definitely reaching
definitely.
out is very important.
Mhm.
You gave some really good advice. Is there anything else that you would like to share with anybody who's in active addiction or thinking about becoming sober or, just struggling today? Like, what would you tell them?
Mm. If you have it in your mind that you want to quit, it's not going to be easy. You may not be successful on the first attempt. You may not be successful on the second attempt, and so on and so forth. But, if you can't do it by yourself, be sure that you do reach out to the right resources. If it is a spiritual leader, if it is a local AA, if it is, self-admitting yourself, because I went to a rehab that I got on state aid in Minnesota, my very first time going to rehab. So, and even through the process, I know that I explained that this last time I didn't take it as serious. It was only because I knew that if I continue to drink, I'm going to die. So it was like, keep drinking and have a short life, or get sober and and add years to your life. I feel I'm 42, but I feel like there are extra years left on my life because I gave up alcohol. Um,
Yeah, I agree with that.
and I would say, visually see what you want to do in the future. If you got to do a vision board, whatever it is, but make, set the goals short enough that you can actually achieve them. I know, you know, I planned on going to grad school, but I just knew that if I put my mind on that and not focus on work, then I'll be able to do it. You have to trust the people that are there for your best interest. If there's people that are trying to take you to a bar, take you to a club, and heck, even at a restaurant, and you sitting at the bar, those are the people that you just don't want to be around. Surround yourself with like-minded people. There are enough people out here on social media. There's more than one platform to find some people. Just keep following people. Just
Mhm.
keep following. Add a whole lot of people, even if you never comment on their page. Just add them, view what they're saying, watch their videos, read their posts, see how their life is, and then you shape your life, your plan, what best suits you. But the most important thing is just sustain sobriety. So, and like I said, my even though I just gave that long list, my sponsor says keep it simple.
Yeah.
I try my best to truly plan my day out, and if it's a whole lot of stuff, then it's a whole lot of stuff I have to do that particular day. But I don't try to. I mean, there are big goals that I'm trying to achieve, but these smaller goals, which is me staying sober every day, outweighs those bigger goals, because those goals will get there. It'll work itself out. But me trying to stay sober today is what's most important.
Yep. Keep it one day at a time.
That is true. That is true.
Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. We do
Well, I
have a lot in
appreciate.
common.
Yeah, I like I said,
For sure.
I just want to say thank you, for allowing me to come on and share. And I'm just happy that I'm able to do it. And like I said, I am very thankful. I want to say thank you too, because I didn't know that you had bought my book. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
of
appreciate it.
course. No,
I
I
wish I would
wanted
have
to
known.
read
Like I
it.
said, I would have got you a signed copy.
Aw. Well,
Yes.
I put it on my Kindle, but,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, most
I'll take a
definitely.
signed copy.
Okay.
It's alright.
Yeah, most definitely. But like I said,
You wanna, talk about you said you had a podcast too? Do you
I
want
sure
to
do.
talk about all the stuff that you're doing for the
Okay.
recovery community? And then I'm also going to link it below my video on YouTube, and then I'll link it under my podcast for everybody to find you.
Okay. Well, my podcast is on YouTube under 12 Faces of Sober. Basically, I have interviewed therapists. I've interviewed a former NFL player. I've interviewed authors, as well as people like yourself in the recovery community. We all have a story. We all have a blueprint of what we went through. We have a blueprint of how we got sober, and now what we're trying to do to maintain sobriety. And so that's what it's more or less is showcasing, is that we can all recover together, but we have to be able to be open-minded and listen to other people's stories, because like I said, we didn't know that we had the stuff we had in common. So that's what it's more or less about, is the platform for people to share, and and then also um that's on YouTube, but I'm actually about to be featured, and you can look out for that. But that one's called the Sober dot app.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be on that too. They
Oh,
reached out to me. So,
that's what's
yeah,
up.
the Sober app. Shout
Mm.
out to them.
Yeah, shout
I'm
out
so
to them.
excited for that.
Definitely. Yeah, I spoke with them yesterday and everything. So I submitted a lot of my information. So I'm looking forward to that. Um, I the I guess the good thing is, you know, within this community, you never know who you're gonna come in contact with. And that's what I like about it, because it's like, you know, look at the similarities, okay? We both are about to be on this app. You know what I'm saying? So it's good. Now we're two people out here that we both know each other, that's on the same plan, that's got a good story. So we can basically send each other, hey, check her out, check me out,
Yeah.
and that's what it is. But oh, and then the last thing is, I mentioned I have two books that I just finished. Well, no, I finished a children's book like about 2.5 weeks ago.
What is that called?
Um, three. I don't know for sure if I want to give out the title
Oh,
yet,
okay. No, no,
but
it's
it's
okay.
it's about baseball. That one, because I haven't decided, only because I have multiple titles, so I don't want to necessarily throw it out there yet. But like I say, it depends on the visual of what is going to the book itself. So that's why I want to see the illustration first, and then that title's going to come afterwards. But the Army book is what I'm currently working on now. And like I said, I have the website 12 Faces of Sober. I have hoodies, t-shirts. I have tights for women. I got workout shorts for women, sweatshirts, hoodies, beanies, baseball hats, snapbacks. So 12 Faces of Sober is
All
trying
right.
to be a brand. So I got a little bit of
I gotta get
everything.
some swag.
Yeah, that'll, like I said, because I'm I'm about to buy some equipment, once I get into the house, to where, I'll be able to, really customize what people are looking for in terms of the colors of shirts. I'm gonna add raglan baseball shirts to it eventually, probably like in the spring or summer. So there's a lot of different things, and
That's
hopefully,
awesome.
hopefully more collaborations
Yeah.
with sober people like yourself. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to navigate. I'm probably gonna have to pick your brain in terms of how to upload all these things to these different
Yeah.
these contents, because that's the only thing I'm lacking. But I've been I've been procrastinating. Needless to say, but I'm
It
gonna get,
happens.
yes, for sure, definitely. But like I said, thank you for
Yeah.
this opportunity. I
Thank
really,
you so much for coming on and sharing your story. Great having you.
all
And
right,
we'll catch up later.
okay,
Alright, thank you.
all right, take care.